tablet says the Anunnaki didn't come to Earth to help humanity evolve. They came because they were losing a war. Not a war with weapons, but a war of energy. The text describes a conflict with another group of beings, referred to only as those who dwell in the outer darkness. These beings existed in a frequency range that the Anunnaki couldn't access. They were starving the Anunnaki of resources, specifically the resources tied to consciousness energy. The Anunnaki had built an empire across multiple star systems, but their technology, their entire civilization, ran on harvested consciousness frequency. And the outer darkness beings were systematically cutting off their supply. So the Anunnaki came to Earth, not because Earth was special, but because it was remote, far enough from the conflict that they could build a containment system without interference. The tablet describes Earth as the hidden farm, a place where consciousness could be cycled indefinitely, generating energy with each reset, completely isolated from outside intervention. Humans weren't created to worship the gods. Humans were created to power them. The tablet is very specific about this. It uses the Sumerian term Lu Kig to Ji for A, which translates to worker made to return. Not worshipper, not servant, worker. A biological machine engineered to generate the one resource the Anunnaki couldn't synthesize, consciousness energy derived from emotional experience. Code 5 describes the selection process. Not everyone gets reset the same way. The tablet divides human consciousness into 3 categories. The first category, those with strong knowing, refers to people who retain too much awareness between cycles. These consciousnesses were flagged as risks. The system couldn't fully wipe them, so instead they were eroded into what the tablet calls the slow path, a series of lifetimes designed to break their memory through repeated trauma. The tablet doesn't describe this as punishment, it describes it as correction. If a consciousness remembers too much, it might resist the next reset, so the system deliberately programs traumatic life circumstances to fracture that awareness. The second category, those who flow easily, refers to the majority of humanity. These consciousnesses accepted the reset without resistance and were cycled back into new bodies almost immediately. The tablet describes this as the ideal state from the Anunnaki perspective. No memory fragments, no resistance, just smooth, efficient recycling that generates maximum emotional frequency with minimum system strain. The third category, those who refused the light, were the ones who somehow avoided the beacon entirely. The tablet describes these as the ones who scatter, consciousnesses that escape the containment field. But here's the problem. The tablet also describes a failsafe. If a consciousness refused the light, the system activated what the text calls the second lure, a personalized projection designed to exploit the emotional bonds from the previous life. Dead relatives, lost loved ones, spiritual guides, all of them projected illusions pulling you back toward the reset station. Code 6 describes the memory insertion process. After the wipe, consciousness doesn't return to Earth as a blank slate. The Anunnaki preload certain emotional triggers, fears, desires, traumas that weren't earned in the upcoming life but were carried over from the archive. This explains why some people are born with inexplicable phobias or attractions. It's not past life memory bleeding through. It's intentional programming. The tablet describes this as the weight that ensures return, a set of emotional anchors that make it nearly impossible for consciousness to break free on its own. You're not just living a new life. You're living a life that's been pre-configured to keep you trapped. But the insertion process serves another purpose. The Anunnaki discovered early on that consciousness without challenge produces weak emotional frequency. Suffering generates stronger energy than contentment. So they program conflicts into each life before it even started at insertion phase. A fear of abandonment that sabotages relationships. An attraction to unavailable partners. A self-destructive impulse that undermines success. These aren't random psychological quirks. According to the tablet, they're installed during the insertion phase specifically to ensure maximum emotional intensity. The system doesn't want you to be happy. It wants you to feel. And pain makes you feel more than anything else. Code 7 is the population threshold. This is where the tablet gets distorted.